Welcome to the Joel vs Arthritis YouTube channel. Today I'm bringing you the very first in a series of top tip videos giving you advice on how basically I manage my condition and things I've learned over a lifetime of living with arthritis.
Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away.
So I wanted to make this video for you today, guys, so that I gave you my sort of top 7 tips for those who are newly diagnosed with arthritis. So I hope you get something from them. Just the usual point here where I say that I'm not medically trained, I'm a patient expert, I advocate by lived experience, I don't claim to be medically trained. This is just as a patient, things I guess I wish I knew when I was first diagnosed all those decades ago, because I'm far too old. But yeah, hopefully they help. So tip number 1, give yourself time to process the news. It sounds simple, but there are so many of us that rush head. We're so desperate to get a name to the things we're experiencing that sometimes we forget to give ourselves a moment to process what's going on. You know, you've probably had that experience of being a bit numb, or, you know, for me, I was in hospital when I got the news. I just felt a bit numb. That's the only way I can explain it. And whether that news is about you or a loved one, you know, you might not be the person with arthritis. You might be here trying to support somebody else. You see people's mouths moving, but you're not really hearing the words that are coming out, and that's okay. That's a perfectly reasonable response when you're in shock. Ultimately, it's shock. Don't beat yourself up about it. If you draw blanks when they ask, have you got any questions? I didn't have any questions. I didn't know what to ask. I was a kid. My parents did all the talking for me, and even as an adult now, I don't always feel like I've got the right questions for what I want to ask. And don't stress if once you get in the car you have 101 questions in your head, or you found us here today because a couple of days have passed and now all of a sudden you've got all these questions and you feel like you've missed that opportunity. There will be plenty of opportunities. I know the world is a little bit crazy right now at the time of recording this, and that might go on for a little while, but there are ways to get help, and you can get them through your specialist team, your primary clinician. There's lots of options out there. And if you want more information on that, let me know in the comments and I'll put some links in there for you. But for now, take in what you can, talk it through with your loved ones and those around you, because ultimately they will form your support network, and it's a much needed support network. And give yourself time to get your head around the news, because you need to take your own time. Everyone's different. Some people, it's the kick that they needed and they make all sorts of massive lifestyle changes. Other people go into a bit of denial. Others are sort of like I was, in shock, and just ignore it for a few months. So yeah, give yourself time and don't be too hard on yourself when you come out of whatever state that is and are now processing that, looking for information. Number 2, really important, don't Google anything. I know that's how you found us today. I really can't stress this enough. There's a reason why every time you search for something online regarding health, it comes up that you got cancer or you're going to die or whatever. Like, you know, we've all done that where we search minor symptoms like headache and suddenly you're being told by the internet it's cancer. The internet is full of sites wanting clicks, which unfortunately it's the world we live in, which means a lot of information out there is sensationalized, but also it's sometimes backed by very little opinion or expertise. I'm always putting my hands up on this channel and saying I am not medically trained, but unfortunately not all sites are that transparent behind the people that write the things that you are Googling. There are amazing charities out there, and again, if you want these, I can put them in the comments. Please just let me know. I promise I'll get back to you same day and I'll put the link down. Let me know what country you're in. But you know, here in the UK we've got people like NRAS that specialise in RA, versus Arthritis that are more the general sort of UK charity, the Psoriasis Association, which are doing wonderful things for people with psoriasis and psoriatic disease. But there's loads out there, so there's no need to grab false information, jump to conclusions, or rush to try and find out if that new little thing is linked to your disease or not. It's just not worth it. I've had too many sleepless nights googling stuff where the information I was given was wrong, it was sensationalized, it wasn't backed up by any fact. So get it from sensible sources, get it from reputable sources, get it from charities, get it from your doctors. You know, there will be lots of people that tell you you should try this and that diet and yoga and all these sort of things. Block it out and stick to what your doctors and what the charities and the organisations that have built up decades of experience around our disease have to say. Like I say, I'm here to offer an opinion. My experience might be completely different to your experience. So yeah, please don't Google anything. You know, if you're going to Google, Google for where you can get support, where you can get fact-based help, like those charities and organisations I talked about. But yeah, if you want them, let me know. I'll drop them in the comments for you. Number 3, talk to friends, family, and those in a similar position, those with lived experience. Don't make the mistake I did when I was younger. I bottled it up for far too many years and tried to deal with it on my own, and I hid everything because I didn't want to be judged on my arthritis. I want to be judged on my ability, not because I was doing well considering my condition. And a problem shared is a problem halved and all that. You've heard it a million times before. So if your friends and your family have an understanding, if you're educated them on the situation, they know about the diagnosis, and they know what your average day looks like, and that sometimes you're going to have to cancel, and you're going to feel as bad about that as they will. If they understand all this up front, they will not only understand, but they will recognise when you're struggling, and they will be part of your recovery. There's nothing worse than when you have to cancel on a friend and they make you feel bad for it. They're like, oh, I'm really disappointed you can't be coming. And I'm like, well, I'm disappointed I can't be there as well. So, but if you've educated them, if you've talked all that through over long periods of time, they will understand and they can help support you, and they will also make those conversations so much easier. Also, ask your doctors and local charities about support groups in the area. There are groups out there that you can get involved with. My only word of caution with this is to just make sure they are comparable with your situation. The reason I say this is when I was a kid, I was sent to groups with pensioners when I was a little boy. And it just made matters worse because it was like a window into my future with arthritis. I could see what people were like decades down the line with active disease and the disability that brought. So if you're young, find a young person's group. If you're a female with concerns about arthritis and starting a family, then perhaps look for a women's only group. There are lots out there, trust me. Patient experience, lived experience is invaluable, but it can take a long while for us to make that leap to join those things and get involved with those things. I'm not exaggerating when I say I spent over 20 years doing that. I spent over 20 years hiding my condition. It was only when I became a father, I wanted to be a better role model, and frankly, I had a massive flare. You can look back at other videos and find that, but it was not healthy for me, and I had to get to a point where I mentally broke that I went and got help. That's clearly not good for anyone. It wasn't good for me, it wasn't good for my friends, it wasn't good for my family, it wasn't good for my career. Try and talk to somebody that understands. That could be family, friend, local support group, charity group, a Facebook group, anywhere where you feel safe and you feel validated and you feel seen. Number 4, keep moving. Like, I literally, big exclamation mark behind this, keep moving. Anyone will tell you that exercise is essential with arthritis. You will often hear me refer to breaking the cycle with a flare. And this is because as pain rises, you tend to naturally, your mobility goes down. But all that does is over time is it's fueling the flare. You gain weight, you move less, your joints get more restricted and seize up. You have more weight to carry on those sore joints. And it kind of leads to this vicious cycle where a simple flare can become a much bigger problem. And I'll be totally honest with you, that's where I am now. 2019, at the start of 2019, I was playing rugby, I was running long distances, I had a massive flare, big pain issue, I'm left in permanent pain. But the trouble is, what happened in 2019, I piled on weight, didn't move enough, and now I'm 2 years later? I don't know why I looked at the clock for. 2 years later, and I'm still only walking. I'm not doing sport, and I need to still lose the weight because that initial flare caused this situation that then meant I had so much less resilience and ability to manage my condition. Whereas when I was 4 stone lighter and playing sports, I could afford to have a day in bed. I could afford to have a week in bed. I can't do that now because I'm not conditioned. You need to keep moving. Yeah, if you need a rest, you need a rest and listen to your body, but you need to try and do what you can, even if it's just sitting on the end of the bed and bending knees and doing some exercises. Speak to your physio. They will give you exercises you can do with limited mobility. Just because you can't go running, it doesn't mean that you can't keep things moving. Take away from this one, if you want to maintain your movement, you have to use it. Literally, it is a use it or lose it case with arthritis. We have it for our entire life. It's progressive, as I said previously. It's destructive. It damages joints. We end up with hip replacements, knee replacements in some cases, etc. So don't wait for treatment or for a follow-up appointment or to ask your doctor about something. These tend to be excuses. I know because I do it myself. I keep telling myself I'll start running again next week because in my head I'm convinced I can't do it anymore. I know I can do it. It might only be half a mile and it won't certainly be the 20 odd miles I could run before at a time. But we make excuses. Do what you can when you can. 5. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You should have probably got this by now in this, with everything I've said to this point, but once you've had time to process the news, start writing down your questions for your next appointment, because sometimes they can feel a long way off, but they will come around. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Lots of questions. There is no one to advocate for you. You know, you get that chance in that room. There's nobody by your side. You can bring someone, of course, if that helps your confidence. But it's finding a way that you can get those questions out, even if it's just reading from a piece of paper. Before I started doing all this advocacy stuff, when I was literally finding my voice, that's what I did. I would take a piece of paper and I would say, "You're right if I just read this out," and I would read it out. So at a time when there are huge waiting lists for physiotherapy, hydrotherapy, pain management clinics, you need to make your voice heard. And I appreciate this might not be what you want to hear right now, because you know, I've been there where you want someone to fix it for you and everything. But unfortunately, with the state we're in at the moment, particularly here in the UK, I appreciate other countries got other situations. But you need to find a way to get that confidence to tell your health professional how you are feeling and the impact your disease is having on your life. And that's the really important bit. It's not just about pain. It's not just about blood test results. It's about the impact that your disease is having on your life. So tell them about your careers, tell them about the impact on your family, relationships, your sex life, if that's what's important to you. You know, whatever the impact that your disease is having, paint them the picture. You don't have to be a good storyteller. It can just be fact. You need to try and explain to your doctors on a human level what your arthritis means for you, because otherwise they will just ask about your pain. They will refer to your latest blood test or your latest scan, or what are you doing, or what weight are you, and how you need to lose weight. And all them things are obviously really important, but they're looking at it from a clinical point of view. Make sure that you explain to them the impact that your arthritis is having on your life. Number 6. It's okay to have a feeling sorry for yourself day. I do it all the time. No matter how positive you are or how you gloss it up, it's pants as far as news goes. If you've just been told that you've got this condition that's there for life, that there's no cure, you can only manage it, you know, living with arthritis isn't a walk in the park. You're sore, tired, grumpy, fatigue, and one week you can be fine, only to have your plans torn up because you wake up the next day in agony. You know, it happens to us all. You know, you can be fine one day and you're not the next. That is the reality of arthritis. And it sucks. Why put more pressure on yourself to be positive 100% of the time? It's impossible. You can't do it. You know, it's only human to get to a point where the resilience runs out, your mood drops, and you just get fed up with it. I spent most of my childhood in that hospital. I know that feeling of just being thoroughly fed up with it more than most. And that's okay. You don't need to find a reason. You don't need to blame yourself. Basically, this is how I do it. My rule is that I allow myself to have one feeling sorry for myself weekend in every month. Sometimes I don't need it. Perhaps that's one day a week if things are really bad. But I just accept that one weekend a month I might feel thoroughly rubbish and fed up with everything, and that's okay. By doing that, it allows me to do like a pressure release thing. I think if I tried to always put on a brave face for my wife and kid and everything else, I would just break at some point. I have done in the past. I've learned that the hard way. So what I now do is I say, you know what, I feel miserable this weekend. That's fine, and I'm going to wallow in it. I'm not going to fight it anymore. Why waste that energy? You're already dealing with a long-term health condition. Why waste energy because you just want to have a day or two feeling sorry for yourself? And that's okay. You know, all I would say is just make sure you've got a friend or someone who's checking in on you if you do start spiraling. And again, if you need links, signposts and everything to mental health charities and support, please let me know in the comments and I'll happily provide that. So yeah, just make sure that it's something you discussed with your spouse or your friends or your siblings or whoever that may be, and just say, you know what, I'm just a bit fed up with it. I'm just going to be a bit miserable for a day or two. Have a safety net. That's all I would say, because there has been times where for me that 1 or 2 days has turned into a bigger issue, and depression and mental health challenges go side by side with long-term health conditions. You know, that's fact. So just make sure you've got somebody there who can step in and say, you know, I think you need to get some further support. You've got to talk. You've got to be honest with people about what's going on. You can't just go off and have your your weekend of feeling sorry for yourself if you don't communicate it, because all you're going to do is frustrate everyone around you. So yeah, talk about it. And finally, number 7. Remember that everyone's journey is different. This is a really important one to remember, especially when thinking about your decisions and what's good for your own mental health. Everyone's journey with arthritis is unique. Everyone's experiences are unique, and they're just as valid, as important as mine, as yours, as somebody else's. So do not compare. I literally can't stress that enough. It's right up there with Googling. Do not compare. Embrace your own path, and focus on what you can do and not what you can't. Trust me, I've been there when you focus so much on, oh, I used to be able to do this 5 years ago, and it's miserable and depressing, and we all do it. But don't compare. If you see somebody on Instagram, you know, and they only want to share their best life and they're doing weightlifting with the same condition you got, irrelevant. Because they might have the same label, it doesn't mean that they're in the same part of the flare remission cycle. It doesn't mean that they've gone through the same experience as you have. Doesn't mean they've had it as long. You know, if I am newly diagnosed with arthritis, then of course I could start an Instagram account and say fighting arthritis and do all of these pictures of me lifting weights and running and all this amazing stuff. But to those people watching that who have had it for 10 years or gone through joint replacements and all sorts of trauma and mental health challenges, then it's not a level playing field. So don't try and make it a level playing field. So just be aware when you're looking at anything out there on the internet, especially in today's day and age where everything's filtered. You know, no two journeys are the same. If there's one thing for certain, is that arthritis is unpredictable. You know, you should have established that by now if you've got to this part of the video. And next week you could be running a 10k or being run to the hospital. It literally is like that. So don't look at that person in the waiting room next to you and assume that that's your future. I did that as a child, and I'm nowhere near as crippled as some of the things I saw as a child. Medicine's come a long way in those 20 years. And in fact, my whole motivation these last 25 years has been doing everything to ensure that I'm not like that. But every journey is different. Whether you've got the same condition, the same diagnosis, you're on the same treatment, just because one drug works for you, it doesn't mean it's going to work for someone else. So yeah, I hope that guide has helped. They're just 7 quick tips. I want to do more tips like this, so please, again, let me know in the comments if you would like to see specific videos, specific questions, specific topics answered, or what's your morning routine, Joel, or what do you do to stay X, Y, and Z? You know, anything like that, because that's ultimately what we're here for on the channel. We post lots of stuff of us from our streams and interviews and podcast stuff and us playing computer games, but the real meat and potatoes of this YouTube channel going forwards is going to be these sharing stories, tips, advice, how I manage certain situations. So if there's anything you want to know, please let me know in the comments. And if you've enjoyed this, took something away from it, if it's helped you support a family member, again, if you're here because you don't have arthritis but you want to support somebody else, you are VIP tier friend. Like, seriously, thank you. But yeah, hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, put a comment, anything that can help other people out there that feel like they're underrepresented or that nobody understands or nobody validates their experiences. You know how the internet works. That tells the algorithm that what we're doing here is valuable, and hopefully the people that need that support, that need that reassurance to know that they're not alone and there is a community here ready to support them, can find us. So thank you very much for watching.
Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away.